What up, guys? It's your boy Pacey from the Merlin and Me YouTube channel. I'm out here today on Xena, the Warrior Princess, and we're gonna make a video that I've been waiting to make for quite a while. I've got about 5,000 miles on the bike, so I think I'm capable of talking about what it's like to own this bike now. And it's really windy today. We had a big windstorm last night, a bunch of trees down and stuff, and it's still quite breezy today. So anyway, guys, the video that we're gonna make today is gonna be the things that I hate about my XSR900. Now, you know, hate may be a strong word. I mean, I don't really hate anything about this motorcycle. You know, if I hated something, I would never have bought it. Anyway, guys, so 5 things I hate about my XSR900. We'll dive into that right after the intro. Stay tuned.
That popping in that flame.
Alright guys, so 5 things I hate about my XSR900. And the first one is a pretty common complaint, and that's going to be the fuel situation on this bike. The gas tank is actually really small. It's like just over 3 gallons, man. So like the range on this bike, I might get 130 miles out of if I'm really economical with my throttle. Which you guys know, I'm really not economical with my throttle. So yeah, the fuel situation on this bike sucks. The gas tank is too small, and on the fuel gauge itself, like, it reads full right now, and it's got 4 bars, and you would think that each one of those bars would represent a quarter of a tank, but that is not true. You really can't tell. Like, when you get down to 2 bars, man, you might as well just get some gas, because you can't tell what kind of range you have left unless you're keeping track of the miles. And that's another thing that's really hard on that bike, man, is checking the miles on it. So number 1 is fuel. Fuel capacity. Fuel mileage is okay. I mean, I think I get pretty decent gas mileage for the acceleration that I typically do, but you really can't see the actual level of your fuel on the fuel gauge. I mean, it's really hard to read. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, number 1 is definitely fuel on this bike. The tank isn't big, and the gauge isn't easy to read, so you get about 130 miles to a tank out of this thing, which isn't great. Damn, it's windy. It's blowing the fuck all over the place. Like, it doesn't look like it's very windy up there in the trees, but I mean, I'm getting blown. Like, see, I'm just getting blown over here. It's blowing me over, especially in these openings here. You see that tree moving like a mofo. Anyway, all right, guys. So number 2. Second thing that I dislike about this motorcycle, and I'm gonna start using the word dislike instead of hate, because hate's a really strong word, and I don't really hate any of these things. It's not enough for me to get rid of the bike or anything like that. So number 2, speaking of the fuel gauge, is the actual gauge on this bike. I love the look of this bike's gauge. It gives you it gives you information, and it looks really cool, and it's easy to read in the daytime. But there's a lot of things about this gauge I don't like. The biggest thing I don't like about this gauge is that it'll only show you one thing at a time. So you can't see like your temperature and the time at the same time. You have to choose, right? I usually leave it on temperature so I know what the bike's doing, but it'd be nice to know, you know, the mileage or the time or your trip mileage. I mean, you can only have one of those things displayed at a time, which is kind of annoying. The other really terrible thing about this gauge is when you ride at night, the gauge is so bright, and no matter how you dim it, it will always return to that brightness every time you start the bike, which I think is just a big flaw. I mean, it's blinding at night. It's hard to see. It creates a glare on the camera and everything. So that's one thing I really don't like about this bike, is riding at night, because the gauge is just too bright. And it's a pain in the ass to dim the gauge anyway. You can't do it while you're on the bike in motion. You literally have to turn the bike off, put the key in the on position, and then you can play with the brightness settings on the gauge. And like I said, they don't stay where you set them. They always return back to its brightest possible setting when you turn the bike off, which sucks. Oh my God, I'm getting blown all over the place. Good thing I didn't want to do like a really long ride today. All right, so that's number 2, or just some of the general stuff with the gauge. And like I said, guys, it's really not a hate, it's more of a dislike. Third thing on this bike that really kind of pisses me off, and I'll show you some pictures as I talk about it, are the headers on this bike. They come black from the factory and they look really good for about a month. And about a month after you ride this bike, those headers just look like trash, dude. I don't know if they need to try a different coating or whatever on them, but they just get discolored and dirty, and no matter what you do, they never look clean or, you know, fully black again. So they definitely need to be repainted with a higher quality paint. But I don't feel like I should have to take my headers off and paint them once a year just for my bike to look good. So I wish they'd figure out something for that. So number 3 are the headers and the discolorization of the stock headers, even with a slip-on exhaust. The stock headers, man, they just look like crap after like a month of riding the bike. They're just so discolored. It's terrible. So that'll be number 3. Number 4 thing that I dislike about this motorcycle is the headlight. The headlight sucks at night. The stock headlight bulb is terrible. I don't know about you guys if you have one of these, but mine came like all funky from the factory. It wasn't aimed right. So I had to do a lot of adjusting with the headlight, and no matter what I do, it's just not very bright. It doesn't cover a very big patch on the road. Okay. Alright, so number 1 was the fuel situation on this bike. Number 2 was the gauge situation on this bike. Number 3 is the headers on the bike. And number 4 is the headlight. Headlight's an easy fix. I just got to do like I just got to get it like an aftermarket bulb for it, and I think that that'll fix it. I had the same issue with my Vulcan, and I spent 60 bucks for like a PIA headlight bulb, man, and that really helped out a lot. Now that light is plenty bright. I don't have any issues with it. I just need to go ahead and bite the bullet and do stuff like that on this. And I'm not going to talk about stuff on the stock bike that is easily changed out that I have already changed out. For example, the mirrors on this bike stock suck ass. So those were obviously one of the first things to go. I got the bar end mirrors now. I like them a lot better. And you know, you may not have an issue with the mirrors like I did, but I'm a wide shouldered individual, so only thing I could see is my shoulders when I had those mirrors on here. The other thing is wind. You know, this is a naked bike. You're gonna feel the wind. It's not really great on the interstate. Even with this windscreen, unless I'm down here like this, I really don't get any sort of bubble on there that will give me like a protective layer for the wind. You know, and like exhaust, you know, all those other stuff that you swap out. I'm not going to talk about those things. Those are things that on like just about every bike everyone hates from the factory, and they got to do that shit, you know, for, you know, regulations and stuff like that. I like the tail tidy. Like the tail section on these bikes can look really good. I like the fender eliminator that I have with the new tail light and everything, but you know, like that's one of those things that you switch out anyway. So that's 4 things that I dislike about my XSR900. The 5th thing that I don't really love about this bike is the engine braking. I wish that it had more engine braking. And I usually ride in the standard mode. It's the best road for everyday street use. But in A mode, it is a little bit better, but nothing really to write home about. Like, I let off the gas, I'm not really slowing down as much as I want. Even in first gear, you know, that's about when you're gonna get all your engine braking. But as soon as you get into second gear or higher, the engine braking really drops off, and I don't know if that's computer controlled or what. I still got to get a nice tune for this bike, so when I do that, maybe they can mess with the engine braking for me. On my Z1000, I really liked the engine braking on that bike. I rarely use my brakes unless I'm letting people know that I'm stopping. But as far as like, you know, decelerating towards a curve or anything like that, man, like a turn, I'm using the engine braking. I just like to roll off the gas and have plenty of brake right there. You know, that's how I've always ridden. It may not be the way that they tell you to read it, and I'm good at using the brakes too. I'm not afraid of my brakes. I just wish that there was more engine braking. I wish the bike would slow down more. So like now I'm still moving forward quite a bit. There's not a lot of decel that's holding me in place. You know, it's not really slowing me down. So a lot of times I have to use the brakes, where on my Z1000 and my ZX10 and a lot of the other sport bikes I had, I would never have to really use my brakes. On this one I do. So that's the 5th thing that I hate about my XSR900, and that's the engine braking. So just another recap for you guys. Number 1 thing I do not like about this motorcycle, or that's, you know, it's an annoyance, is the fuel situation. The gas tank is too small. and the range is really hard to determine via the bars on the gauge itself. Second thing is some of the functionality of the gauge. I really wish that I could see more than one thing at a time. I don't like having to, you know, cycle through, especially on the move, if I want to see some information about my motorcycle. Second thing with the gauge is the brightness. The brightness on this gauge sucks ass. Oh my god, the wind is so... Look at it, it's blowing me fucking towards the right of the road. Oh man, that's terrible. Normally I'd speed down this road and pass, but I can't. Alright, so second thing was the gauge and the brightness and the settings on there. Third thing, headers. The stock header gets really dirty really fast and you can't really get it clean again. The fourth thing, it would be the headlight. Stock, it's just not good enough. You gotta upgrade that. And the fifth thing is engine braking. You gotta get some better engine braking on these bikes, man. I know that's a lot of electronically controlled stuff, but it still sucks. Alright guys, that's the end of the video of everything that I dislike about my XSR900. I guess I could show you what I mean about the gauge thing here real quick. Oh, it's gotta be in the off. It's gotta be in this position. You gotta hold some shit down. Like, it's really difficult to get in there. See, now, there we are. And now you can do the brightness. I don't know. I'll have to look it up again. I've looked it up once, and it was a pain in the ass, and I did it, and then I stopped because I was like, fuck this. You just kind of have to deal with the brightness on there. The tank is really small, man. It's like just over 3 gallons, so there's really not a whole lot you can do with that. Other than that, guys, I absolutely love this motorcycle. I mean, it's beautiful, it's quick, it sounds good, it really fits my style and, you know, the way that I like to ride and things that I like to do, so... if you guys like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. And if you're thinking about getting an XSR900 and you have any questions at all about how it rides, what it's like day to day, feel free to send me a message either here on YouTube or on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram, Pacey Moto, obviously YouTube, Merlin and me, but you can type in Merlin and me on both and find both. So, yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I will talk to you on the next one. Peace.